Welcome to Witches of Three.
Speak free, speak free. Talking about witches. Talking about.
Welcome to Witches of Three, Speak Free. Obviously, sans the other two. If you saw Kyla's episode last week, she kind of already went over that this month we'll be solo filming from our own homes, in the essence of being COVID safe, and also just giving you a chance to get to know each one of us individually a little bit. So this week I'm going to talk a little bit about my story and how I found this path and how I found the other two. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about crystals, because that is really how this all started for me. So I know that we're going through tumultuous times, obviously. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some basic ways that you can utilize crystals that are readily available wherever you are, in order to navigate this time and conserve our energy stores. So I guess I have to start with how I became a witch, or discovered that I was a witch. My spiritual journey started very early, at about 16. I didn't have any sort of spiritual upbringing. My family was very much non-religious. I had a few members of my family who went to church, and I went to church a few times, but it didn't, none of that really resonated with me. It wasn't until I was 16 years old that I came out to my family as being bisexual, and certain members of my family told me I was going to go to hell for it. So, if you know anything about me, telling me that I'm doing something wrong is a surefire way to get me to figure out a way to prove that you're wrong. So, this was on Thanksgiving. So through that break and before Easter, I read the entire Bible and realized that it was a really epic story. But it didn't hold any validity for me, and I definitely didn't feel like I was going to hell. But that sent me on my seeking. So through my senior year in high school, I consumed whatever philosophical, religious, spiritual materials that I could get my hands on, and still really didn't find anything that resonated with my soul. While I was in college, the first time, I met a lady who was very spiritual, and she made beautiful jewelry. That's obviously the aesthetics got me. And she invited me to this meeting, and this group followed the teachings of Aleister Crowley. So I think I got pretty consumed in that world for about 4 months. Did readings, I participated in ritual, but it still didn't feel quite right. And I'll preface this by saying this time in my life I was probably not fit for spiritual practice, as I was definitely living a harder lifestyle. So I kind of walked away from spirituality for probably 10 years. It wasn't until I got pregnant that I decided to seek out spirituality again. And crystals were always the thing that I carried or had around, rocks in general. So I've always had these stones in my life, but I didn't really understand what they were. So while I was pregnant, I did a lot of reading because I was pregnant with twins, so you can't really do anything. I was on bed rest and home from work, so I consumed all the literature. And it was fascinating to think that these things that I've always collected that were so beautiful also had like vibrations and powers. But I didn't really get a chance to deepen my practice at that point because obviously I had twins. So I was pretty consumed with being a mother, and I went back to college immediately after having them. So it wasn't until I was in college and I went to a meditation class that I decided that I really wanted to pursue this and study. But I'm also a very business-minded person, so that's pretty much when I started selling crystals. When I moved here to Oklahoma, I was at my kitchen table making crystal necklaces to sell on the internet, and my kid's best friend down the street's mother came over, and she was just like, "This is amazing. You should go meet my Aunt Michelle at Peace of Mind." So that's where I went. And that started my relationship with Michelle because immediately I was hired for a job. And Michelle and I became fast friends. And then later on, Kyla came in and the Empowering Goddesses group started. So we just all kind of fed off of each other and grew and really developed our own sort of practice together. But I think all of us also developed ourselves individually and found our lanes. But what I discovered through doing the work with Empowering Goddesses, well, not completely with them, but on my own with them, was that I also had a propensity for herbs and oils, and that I was very drawn to root work. And then I had a dream that told me that that was the path I should follow. Be it as it may, outside the box for a white girl from California to be practicing Southern root work. It just fit. It's just what I do. For lack of a better word, I am into practical magic. I want people to be able to navigate this plane with the help of roots and crystals and herbs and oils. So that is really where I fit into the game. It's really what I do. But I am most known as being the Crystal Lady. That's the first classes that I taught here were on crystals. And it's very much the thing that I do even when I'm not deeply involved in my practice. I almost always have crystal jewelry on, or crystals in my bra. So now that you know a little bit about me and what I do, let's talk a little bit about this world and what we're all going through. I think first and foremost, most of the people that come into the store that are seeking guidance right now are really looking at how to deepen their practice in a time when going out into the world or, a lot of our leisure activities we're not able to do. So people are at home. So they're having time to really sit with themselves and think and work on the things that maybe they've needed to work on for a while. So the first crystal that most people see and buy that are attracted to is amethyst. We always have a ton of amethyst in the store. It's definitely a stone that I work with a lot. There are tons of different versions of amethyst, tons of different variations, locations, colorations. So you can really pick and choose the one that you're drawn to the most. I'm definitely a fan of the clusters, the sparkly crystals. I love the raw crystals myself. And so for meditation or, just to have around your home for the vibrational quality of amethyst, I like the raw stones. But most people, for practical use, the tumbled stones are the best. Because these are easily put in our purse, in our bra, in our shoe, in our bag, in our car, and they're kind of smooth and comforting just to touch. But amethyst itself is really just kind of a stone of spiritual awakening. If you're trying to deepen your practice, make your connection to spirit, work on your intuition, amethyst is an all-purpose stone for that. It's also a quartz crystal, which makes it infinitely a healing stone. So I always tell people this is one of those stones that's really easy to get, comes in all kinds of forms, and it's really easy to develop your practice with amethyst because you're going to be drawn to it. So for me, amethyst is the one that I go to when I'm definitely feeling energetically depleted or disconnected from spirit and can't quite find my way again. I always go back to amethyst, even though I have multitudes of different stones. Amethyst is one of my all-time favorites, and it is my go-to for that. So for meditation, this is a stone that you can really just hold. For sleep, this is a great stone too when we're all wound up by the news or having some anxiety. This is a great stone to just put under your pillow. I like these little flat ones because I'll just put them in the bed. They're not going to hurt anybody, right? They're not going to poke you. My partner has been known to find the crystals in the bed. So these are fantastic for this time. The other stone that I find that I'm recommending the most right now is rose quartz. A lot of people are struggling with relationships, obviously because we can't have as much human interaction and touch. So we're needing to be more reliant upon our love for ourselves. I'm not a huge fan of the heart shape. My cats are fighting on the floor right now. Queen, the heart shape, but it does remind us of something. So when we see this shape, we are reminded of that feeling, love. Rose quartz is the stone of self-love. Obviously, it can be used for promoting love with another person, but for me, it is the iconic stone of self-love. And when it's in that heart shape, it's also an extra way for us to get that muscle memory, that this is what it's about. So this stone I really recommend is for anybody and everybody to wear, to have, to hold, to put in the bath with you, to put in your bra, to get jewelry of. This stone will be infinitely beneficial for everyone during this time. I mean, if I could give everybody in the world a piece of rose quartz, me living in my fantasy world, I believe that we would probably be better off if everyone just had this beautiful pink stone to love and to hold on to. Another issue that I'm finding a lot of people having right now is focus. I'm sure you're dealing with feeling scattered. I was just saying today, and it might just be because I'm going to be 43 this year, that I can only have space in my mind for like 2 thoughts at a time. No more. So fluorite, which is another one of those ones that's infinitely eye-catching, beautiful, aesthetically pleasing, and kind of just mineralogically fascinating. This stone is really helpful for organization of thought. And if we're organized in our brain, we can be organized in our life. And since we're all spending so much more time at home, we obviously do have time to get organized. I'm seeing a huge push for people to want to really organize their home and their spaces. Fluorite is infinitely beneficial for that. But it's also really good if you are developing or deepening your spiritual practice. There are a lot of different directions you can go when deepening your practice. And with the vast amount of information that's out there, I'm finding a lot of people are getting stuck on things that maybe aren't necessarily the safest things to be doing in these tumultuous times. So fluorite is really protective in the psychic realm, in the astral realm. So it's a great stone for that as well. So I'm finding that we're seeing a lot of people seeking fluorite, and I think that's probably why. The other thing that we can do with crystals is use them to charge our food and water. So sometimes when I'm making soup in the house, I'll drop a quartz crystal in it. There are also crystals all over my kitchen. I actually keep a quartz crystal in our salt. Pretty common practice for some witches, but it's definitely something that I do. Just to charge, just to make sure that we are getting all of that healing vibration whenever we're consuming. But one of the other things that people are struggling with right now is lack of energy. Nobody wants to put on pants or or bras. I feel like we're all ready to just burn the bras. Like, what do we need them for, right? But we're also struggling with lack of energy. Our sleep is being interrupted. You know, there's lots of energetic shifts going on. They're just causing us all to feel depleted. And if we don't feel depleted, we feel manic. So it's one or the other. But carnelian, this baby, she also comes in different color variations. Most often you find carnelian tumbled. We carry it raw every now and then. It's just not quite as common to see. But this one is really safe to put in your water bottle. We're all carrying those water bottles now. But you can just drop one of those in there. Make sure that you wash it first, of course. And just ask it to give you a little extra boost of energy. It's not going to add any flavor to your water. It's totally non-toxic. And it will really just help remind you to keep your energy in balance. Off the note of crystals, just because it's something that you can carry, I sell these in the shop. These are John the Conqueror roots. Right now we're all kind of worried about all of the things in our life. How do we possibly manage in this new space to keep it all together? We really just have to force that right now. There aren't really many legs up spiritually for us right now, so we really kind of have to force it. John the Conqueror root really helps us conquer whatever gets in our way. I find this root to be very effective, especially if I'm dealing with the low energy, I haven't been sleeping well, if I'm just feeling like I'm not connected to the earth. I hold one of those roots, sometimes in a carnelian together, and just sit for a few minutes and collect myself, pull my energy back in. And I find that I find myself getting very, very grounded and finding exactly what emotion I'm having right now. So it's a really great root to carry in lieu of a crystal. One of the other great crystals that we have on this earth is salt. I think salt is probably the most undervalued magical tool that we have. Most of us have salt in our cupboard. Good old plain Morton salt is just as good as your fancy sea salts or your pink salts, your black salt. Salt is salt is salt is salt, for the most part. This is a gift from one of our customers. It's a blessing salt, and it has some oils and some herbs and things like that in it. And they come in these cute little bottles. You can carry it in a little sachet, but it really just helps to absorb negative energy and bring about positive things in your life. Salt is a symbol of luck. So if it's going to suck out the negative energy and bring you luck, this is ultimately the best crystal that you can possibly have. We sell Himalayan salt rocks. Those are great to just drop in your bathtub to give you a nice rejuvenation. But again, good old Morton salts, Epsom salts, all those things are really going to help us rejuvenate ourselves. So we put bowls of salt. When the kids are having nightmares or anxiety, they've consumed too much media. I put fresh bowls of salt under their bed. Sometimes they don't even know they're there. We do it at our house as well. Sometimes I'll put some by the front door. If you've ever been in the shop, you'll notice that there's almost always a salt line by the front door. It's also a nice protective barrier to not allow any of that negative energy to come and linger. It really, really sucks it all up. So salt is my other fantastic tip for navigating this time. Worry stones. Any of these, they come flat. Some of them have divots. Some of them are more pillowy. These stones are great to just have in your pocket or on you, especially like I always find that when I have to go someplace, I get a little more anxious when I have to be around people because I'm not used to being around large groups of people. If I have to go to the store or really anywhere that I have to be around large groups of people, you'll almost always find me with one of these worry stones in my pocket. I'm also a fidgeter, so it just happens. But these are fantastic. We usually carry quite a large variety of these in the store. They're also very beautiful. But one of the best ways that you can really utilize your stones to make positive changes in your life are with crystal grids. I haven't taught a class on crystal grids in quite some time. Obviously, 2020 was a no class time. But I will be doing a crystal grid unlock next month. But this is kind of a sample of what I would do in an unlock. Either talk about crystals, talk about roots, do a small spell for you. The unlock that if you are a Patreon level 2, I believe, that's $10 a month that you'll be able to see immediately after this episode. I'm going to do a little spell for the Capricorn new moon. So I'm going to give you a little sneak into what I'm going to talk about. New moon is the moon that I work with the most. I am not a full moon junkie. It doesn't necessarily do the greatest things for my energy. So new moons give me focus. Obviously there's not that big shining thing in the sky. I do love the dark sky. You can see the most going on up there. So new moon work is really when we plant seeds or we start things. So for me, I don't want to deal with the business of letting go and releasing all the time. I want to manifest. I want to set things out. I want to make my course. This new moon is extra powerful, being that it's in Capricorn, which is where we really manifest magic. And we manifest the things that are going to affect us on this plane for the longest periods of time. Capricorn is the planner, the organizer, the ambitious one. So for this unlock, I'm going to do a little spell. I'm going to show you a little bit about what my practice is and what I do for every new moon, but what I'm going to do specifically different for this new moon. And the magic number of this moon for me is going to be the number 4. So I'm going to focus on what the numerology is behind the number 4 and what being a Capricorn moon means to me. I want to thank you all for joining me. I will see you on the flip side. We will be recording, I believe, at the end of the month for February with all 3 of us back again. So have a great day, and thanks for joining us on Witches of 3 Speak Free.